Hello and welcome to the shop. By now you've probably already seen the video that I did about the Mid-Ohio Valley Pin Turners Gathering, where I discussed and basically showed all the swag that I was either given or purchased while I was at the show. You probably have also seen the videos that I did in regard to the pin manufacturers or the blank manufacturers and the vendors that were at the show. What I want to do is I want to start turning all this stuff for you guys. But prior to turning it, there is a lot of prep work that needs to happen. So I thought what I would do is just record the process and show this video or present this video right before I start turning these individual blanks into pins. So what we're going to do today is just kind of talk about how I go about preparing this much stuff to turn. Before we get started, I have something else that I added to my table saw top because I had promised I would do this when I got back from the trip. And Stainless Bottle Stoppers sent me two bottle openers. One of them is their standard bottle opener. The other is a new one that is a no damage bottle opener. It'll take the cap off of your bottle. There's a magnet to hold it and it does not damage it, which is great because I like to do those bottle cap blanks and I want to get back into doing those very soon. They also sent me two of these bottle stoppers as well as this nice little honey dipper. And before I left to go on my trip, I took a poll on my other channel and people voted on what they wanted me to use to make these items. And what we have is on the no damage bottle stopper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a chaos blank. I have a bunch of cutoffs from the other chaos blanks that I did, and we're going to glue those up and get a nice chunky blank, and I'm going to turn myself a real nice handle because I'm keeping that one. The other bottle stopper here, we voted for, or I say we, the channel voted for this hybrid blank. So we'll be finding the best place to cut this, and we'll be cutting this into a handle blank for this bottle opener. For the two bottle stoppers, they voted for a Cocobolo blank, and take a look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? We'll be using this for one of the stoppers, and this red Tamanex, I think it is, T-A-M-A-N-X. It may be an IX, I'm not sure, but we're going to use these for the stoppers. We took a vote on the honey dipper as well, and there was a tie between Olivewood and Cocobolo. But when I went to the show and I found Kayla Cooper's incredible blank, I overrode that vote and we are going to use this blank for the honey dipper because I plan to keep that as well. And I love, love, love that blank. I've gone ahead and pulled the tubes out of all the kits and laid them with the blanks so that I can keep everything together. Before I can actually start, I need to go online to stainlessbottlestoppers.com and find out exactly what size hole I drill so that I can epoxy this grommet into the blank before turning. And I've got this pin kit right here. You can't see the kit. It's under these blanks from Art Alonzo. This is the Legacy Old Line pin kit. And I need to get the instructions for how this kit goes together because I don't know if I need to cut blanks for each of these tubes or if one tube fits in the other. I don't know anything about that kit. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go find out that information. We're going to come back and then we're going to start preparing our kits by cutting the blanks to length, drilling them out, and epoxying all of the tubes into the blanks. So that I could more easily keep track of things, all of the blanks requiring some type of cutting and gluing, I marked the kit and I marked a corresponding number on the blank so that I could keep them all straight. On the bottle stoppers and the bottle openers, I went ahead and marked them as well as their blank. And I did this for all of the blanks that are going to require any type of preparation at all. I'm going to start by cutting all of the blanks that will be put onto a Sierra pin kit, and this is just a standard Sierra tube. And what I've done is I'm using this jig a little differently. Normally you've got the insert piece, but I'm just using this as a stop block, and I've set it to where there is about 1/8 of an inch between the end of the tube and the end of the jig, which should give me a little over 1/8 of an inch when I cut the blanks off. We're just going to run these 6 blanks through the bandsaw and get them cut to length. I stopped the bandsaw because with this last blank, I want to make sure that the Celtic knot is right in the center of my tube. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got it measured with a couple of pencil marks, and we'll cut the end off manually on both ends so that we get a nice blank with the Celtic knot displaying in the center. Since all 6 of these blanks are for the Sierra style pin kit, I thought it only made sense to go ahead and get them all drilled out. Then we'll go back and grab the other blanks, because each of those kits requires a different size cut because the tubes are of all different sizes. I'll be able to eyeball all 5 of these blanks for drilling, because if I'm a little off center, it's not going to hurt anything. However, this Celtic knot blank, it is extremely important that I cut or drill right down the center of the blank. So we're going to use this little centering jig, and we're going to mark our center lines on our blank. And now we've got the perfect spot. If we put the tip of that brad point bit right in the center of that X, we should be able to drill straight down the middle of this blank. Right down to the middle of that one. We're going to wait a minute. We're going to let this bit cool because it's probably a little on the warm side, and then we'll go ahead and drill the second acrylic blank. While the bit was cooling, I went ahead and marked up the other 3 blanks, and I'm going to take these over to the bandsaw and get them cut out. By the time we're done, this should be sufficiently cool to drill this next acrylic blank. I did a little online research and found out that the Legacy pin kit and the Classic Elite fountain pin kit both require a 10mm drill bit, and the Shakespeare requires a 10.5mm for the lower barrel and a 12.5mm for the upper barrel. We're going to go ahead and drill the 10mm blanks first, as we have 4 of them, so it'll just be quicker. I'm going to drill the lower half of the Shakespeare first, so I've chucked up my 10.5mm bit. I've got the Shakespeare upper blank, or the cap blank, chucked up, and it requires a 12.5mm bit. All of the pin blanks needing to be cut and drilled have been. They're ready to have the tubes epoxied in. We're going to now turn our attention to the bottle stopper, bottle opener, and honey dipper blanks. We're going to get those cut to the right size and get them drilled for the little nut that goes in that holds the component in place. A bottle stopper blank is normally about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches square, so this blank is the perfect size, and it's about 3 inches in length. So all of these blanks are plenty big enough. We're just going to go ahead and put a mark at 3 inches on each of the blanks. And we'll use our little square here to transfer that mark. I'll put an X so I know which side on the Cocobolo blank I want to use. With everything marked, I'm just going to head over to the bandsaw, cut these to length, and we'll be back in a minute to get them drilled. I've got my bottle stopper blanks cut and they're ready to be drilled. I measured one of the inserts and they are 15.88mm. So we're going to drill down 15.88, and that should be right where that mark is. I did also find a blank that we missed. This is for a Junior Joshua kit, and it needs a 10.5mm hole, so we'll get that drilled at the same time. I'll be using a 1/2 inch bit to drill holes for the inserts. I want to go ahead and do a quick test fit. Well, I can tell that that's not deep enough. So we'll go ahead and drill about another little over 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, and we should be ready to epoxy this insert into the blank. We're right on the lip. I need to drill just a tiny bit deeper. And then what I'm going to do is I'll sink this bit into this blank, and I'll put a piece of tape on there because it's really hard to see the red line, especially with this Cocobolo because it has so much red in it. I'm going to use this bottle stopper blank, or bottle stopper piece, to pull the grommet out. One last test. And you can see that the piece is flush with the blank. You can see that I lowered the bit into the blank and I put a piece of blue painter's tape, and now we're ready to finish drilling our blanks. And a quick test. That looks pretty darn good to me. This last bottle stopper blank is the one that makes me the most nervous. It is probably the most delicate and also the most attractive, and I want to be very careful that I don't screw this one up. I stopped, guys. As I'm looking at this, there's clear resin there. I think what I probably want to do... This one's going to be tricky because, shucks, I don't want that to show, that grommet, and it's going to show no matter how I utilize this blank, regardless of which end, because the wood is chunks of wood, and there's a lot of resin. So we're going to have to put this one on a hold. I think I'm going to pause and rethink it before I just charge into this and do any damage. I'm going to go ahead and get the 10.5 millimeter bit chucked up, and we'll get this Junior Joshua blank drilled out. Last blank for the night. Now that I've got everything drilled and ready to be tubed, I'm going to start by using this tiny little bottle brush and just knocking the dust out of the inside of all of the blanks. And then I'll bring the tubes over, and we'll go ahead and we'll scuff the tubes up on a piece of sandpaper. And this just gives the epoxy something to stick to. And then we'll associate the tube with the blank that it goes with. That way we're sure to get the right tubes and the right blanks, especially for some of these different size blanks. The next thing we'll do is I've got a couple of blanks over there, at least 4, that are pre-drilled. They were made on a CNC. I'll get them over here. We'll dust them out just the same, and we'll scuff their tubes up. We'll have everything ready to glue before we break out the epoxy. I have all of my tubes scuffed up and associated with the proper blanks. I brought these 3 blanks over. Now you might remember that was a 4-pack of blanks. There's a red and blue blank that was in that package. However, it will not accept the 27/64 inch tube. I need to go locate a 3/8 inch tube so that I can go ahead and fix that blank up and turn it into a pin. I've got my epoxy ready. I'm using a 2-part Loctite epoxy. I get this at the big box store. I like to spread a little bit of painter's tape on my bench where I can put the epoxy and mix it. And I really like using matchsticks for mixing the epoxy because they're about the perfect size for mixing, and then you can get inside of your blank to really smear that epoxy around. All of the tubes and the inserts have been epoxied into my blanks. These are going to dry overnight, and tomorrow we'll work on squaring the ends and getting them ready for the lathe. I brought my blanks over to my disc sander, and I've got my squaring jig here, and I'm going to go ahead and square up both sides so they're ready to go to the lathe. I have finished squaring up all of my blanks and have gone ahead and laid them back with their kits. They're ready to turn. There are 1 or 2 blanks down here in the bottom corner that need a little help. And this blank right here, I noticed that some of the little pieces look like they might have been loose. So we're going to squeeze them back into place and douse that in CA before we begin turning. I've got my light booth set up and I'm just taking pictures of each of the blanks prior to turning. That way I'll have a photo of the blank and a photo of the finished pin that I can use on the splash screen for YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Had I been preparing 1 pin, I wouldn't have done it. But since I had, I don't know, there's probably 25 pins there. You know, I thought it would be kind of fun to show the process I go through because there really is a lot of planning that goes into, unless you're producing 100 of the exact same pin, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. You know, laying it out, all of the blanks that had to be cut. Some of the blanks had to be cut in a special spot because, you know, you want to make sure a certain portion of that blank shows up on the tube. The drilling out, the different size bits and just grouping things together. I had some kits that two particular kits that I've never turned before. I had to do some research online and determine how those kits get put together, determine what the bushing sizes were. And I didn't want to buy bushings for a kit that I was only going to ever make 1 of. So I turned around and went through my box, found out what the diameters were and found bushings that would fit. There's just so many pieces that went into this. There were some mistakes made. There were some changes made on the fly, but I think you kind of get the idea of what I go through to make a large number of blanks like this. And this would be the same for a craft show. If you were setting up for a craft show and you laid out 100 kits and 100 pins, I would do the same type of thing. I would try to group everything. First thing to do is get everything cut, boom, then drilled, you know, then tubed. And it's just, and I just sort of brought it all together. I did all the cutting of one size blank, then all the cutting of another, and all the drilling. And with the drilling, I was very careful. I had 2 acrylics. I drilled one and I waited a long time for that bit to cool because you can have issues with acrylic blanks if the bit is too hot. So things like that, just the process I went through. And I really hope you enjoyed it. And if not, this will be the only one of these I do, so don't worry, there won't be another one of these. But it is time now to start doing the turning videos. And that's what I'm excited about. I've actually already turned one of the pins, and believe it or not, I've already got it boxed up, and it's on its way to the post office to get mailed to the recipient. So I'm excited about that. That video will be the first one up after this. But as I turn each of these, I'm going to start off by showing you the pin kit, showing you the blank, telling you where I got them from, giving you the information in case you want to contact that seller and get the same kit or the same blank for yourself. So we're just, and what I'm going to do with it after the fact, if I know some of these kits I already have a home for, or some of these pins when they're made, and I'm going to let you guys know all that and just kind of make it fun. I'll try to throw tips into these videos anywhere I can. I was able to put 1 or 2 small tips in the first video. So they're going to be short probably because, heck, the blanks are ready to go. You throw them on the lathe, spin them, put them into a kit. It doesn't take a lot of time. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank you for sticking with me and watching this video. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon and have a wonderful evening.